All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown, all three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing Dragon Tears by Dean Koontz. This book came out in 1993. The first time I ever read it was in 1993 when it came out, and this is my reread for the channel. And the only thing I remembered about this book was about policemen, and I was correct. It was about policemen. So my memory held true, at least on the subject matter of the book. Let's talk about the cover first, because you know I love graphic design and cover illustration. I think this is fine. I mean, it's typical for a Dean Koontz thriller. Oh, look, he's got his little dog with him. Anyway, the cover, the original cover, okay. There's an afterword in this book where Dean Koontz writes about this book. He originally wanted to title the book Tick Tock because there's a character in this book that says tick tock all the time, so it would have made sense. But the publisher was like, we don't like that title whatsoever. We're not going to do it. You got to think of something else. So he tried to think of other things, and he gave them a list of other things. And then they were like, no, we're going to call it Dragon Tears. That's what we want to call it, Dragon Tears. And he's like, that title has nothing to do with this story. So anyway, that's the publisher insisted. And so he's like, well, it's going to be called Dragon Tears. Against my better judgment, I'm going to rewrite a couple of scenes so Dragon Tears are part of the story. I don't get it. I mean, and he didn't get it either. In fact, 5 years or so later, he wrote another book, and he decided to call that one Tick Tock, and he got it published. And nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared that he called this one. But, 5 years previously, no, TikTok's the worst. And then he's like, well, I'm going to call this one TikTok. And everybody was like, okay. It's like, I don't know, man. It's like, God. The world is run by stupid people. And I think that was the point of Dean Koontz's afterword. So anyway, by the way, I am going to be reading TikTok, the actual, the other TikTok. This one was supposed to be called TikTok. This one is actually called TikTok. Two separate stories. Both of them actually could be called TikTok. But anyway, this is one of my favorite, the one that's actually named TikTok is actually one of my favorite Dean Koontz books. This one, pretty good too. It's about police. Came out in 1993, as I've already mentioned. Harry Lyon is a very prompt and dutiful cop. And he's got a partner named Connie, who's a little more loosey-goosey. She's got some dark humor to her. I mean, and that's one of the things that kind of stuck out to me about this book is, despite all the monsters and supernatural and serial killers and weird phenomena that Dean Koontz puts in his book, kind of the horror that's actually in this novel here is more or less, even though these two police officers are seeing a lot of dark things in their day-to-day lives and dealing with murders and shootings and explosions and car crashes, even though they're dealing with all of that, that's not where the horror lies. The horror lies in kind of their struggle with it, how they PTSD try to deal with it. And the relationship and bond that develops between these two police officers as they're going through all these various kind of problems that are introduced in this book. That's where the horror is. At least that's where I found it. And having worked in law enforcement myself for many, many years, I get it. I get the dark humor. I get how these characters use that as a coping mechanism. When most people just think it's sick and twisted humor, people that deal in ambulances and fire departments and the Army and Navy and war and police and prisons, they don't see it as dark and twisted. They see it as that's just the way you behave. And I thought Dean Koontz did a fairly good job of between these two cops. So anyway, what's going on? There's another character named Sammy Shamrow. He's homeless. I mean, maybe homeless people are also hamless. I don't know. But anyway, he's homeless. He's a druggie. He's got visions and hallucinations. He's a character. Harry and Connie, at the beginning of that. So those are we meet these three characters at the beginning. And then there's this big, drawn out, really intense scene of an active shooter situation. 1993, wasn't really a thing back then. But in this book, it is. There's a mass shooter, not only with guns, but grenades. And he comes into a restaurant, and there's this big chase scene between our two policemen. And it's pretty intense chase scene, and it's almost done in a clever way to this Elvis music plus the Brothers Grimm poetry kind of soundtrack. And you'd have to read the scene to get what I'm saying. But it's very clever the way it's done. It's a bizarre opening scene. Pretty lengthy. A cocaine-fueled, grim nightmare of explosions and dismemberment and shootings. And it's just a drawn-out action scene like only Koontz can do. He can do 100 pages of just one action scene and keep you engaged the whole way. And, you're 100 pages into the book and you're still dealing with the action scene. And I'm like, this is dope. Where else is the book going to go? Well, there's other characters too. Like I said, the hamless guy. And then there's Janet and her young boy and their dog. And they're also like the homeless guy, kind of experiencing supernatural weirdness in their own lives. And then there's the guy that goes around going tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Everybody, you've got 5 hours to live. Tick tock, tick tock. You're gonna die in 2 days. Tick tock, tick tock. It's kind of like that. The Inside Jacket does a pretty good job of explaining that. Harry Lyon was a rational man, a cop who refused to let his job harden his soul. Like I said, that's the theme of this book, is these cops are trying to not let the job harden their souls. His partner urged him to surrender to the chaos of life because she's a little bit more of a free spirit. But Harry believed in order and reason. Then one fateful day he was forced to shoot a man, and a homeless stranger with bloodshot eyes uttered the haunting words that challenged Harry Lyon's sanity. Tick-tock, tick-tock, you'll be dead in 16 hours, dead by dawn, dead by dawn, dead by dawn, tick-tock, tick-tock. It's probably about the way it went. Anyway, the strength of the book, like I said, isn't in necessarily the tick-tock man or the strength of the book is the violence that these people are seeing, these cops, and despite all the weird monster horror stuff, in the end, it's the relationship between these two cops and how they help each other kind of struggle through these life and death situations. And it's a good book. I really liked it. When I read it in 93, I was just a college student. Didn't know anything about police work, so it didn't have as big an effect on me now. But now I will remember it forever just because of the theme of it and having myself lived through some of those experiences myself as a law enforcement person and seeing a lot of stuff I shouldn't have seen. But anyway, we will just leave it at that. It's a very good book. I'm going to give Dragon Tears, or whatever it should have been named. Dragon Tears gets a 9.5. I will read the actual TikTok soon, and one of my favorite Dean Koontz books is this one here. But anyway, there you go.